Bocchi is literally me.
Bocchi is
Bocchi's literally
It's clear that Hitori Gotoh, the pink-haired guitarist, has resonated deeply with many anime fans worldwide. From the constant stream of memes and fan art to the frequent declarations of "she's just like me for real," it's undeniable that she holds a special place in our hearts. To celebrate her birthday, let's take a deep dive into her character and explore what makes Hitori Bocchi Gotoh so relatable. But first, some context. For those who haven't watched Bocchi The Rock, let me summarize who this pink exploding "oh my god, why is she animated like that?" person is. Hitori Gotoh, born on the 21st of February, is the titular main protagonist of the manga and anime series Bocchi The Rock. In this story, Bocchi is a girl facing immense social anxiety from her early days and up to the events of the anime. During middle school, she was inspired by an interview with a popular band on TV that said bands can shine even in the dark. Bocchi then decides to start learning the guitar by borrowing her father's guitar, who used to play in a band when he was young. 3 years have passed and Bocchi is extremely talented on playing the guitar and has even gained an online following in the anime's version of YouTube, having 30,000 subscribers. However, she has failed to make any real-life friends in middle school and is now entering high school. Determined to start over, she enrolled in a high school 2 hours away from home. Hoping to connect with others, she proudly showcased her love for guitar, even bringing it to school. Unfortunately, her attempts fell flat, leaving her on the verge of giving up. But just as she was about to throw in a towel, Nijika happened to be passing by and approached her and eventually got kidnapped by this Dorito waifu to play in her band named Kesuko Band, which literally means zip ties. From here, her story begins, breaking past her comfort zones, improving her social situation despite social anxiety, meeting and interacting with amazing people in the indie rock world, and ultimately, if possible, achieving her dream of becoming a great rock star. And that pretty much sums what Hitori Gotoh is all about. And now, let's peel this relatable character layer by layer. If one were to describe Bocchi, she is weird. Like, really weird. Let's take episode 1 for example. In a flashback sequence, it tells of the many times she tried to make friends in middle school. From rocking out merchandise of her favorite bands, to placing CDs on her desk to be noticed, to finally, which is absolute peak, is requesting the school to blast heavy rock music during lunchtime. Like bruh, the things she does in the anime, and not just in the first episode, is beyond what is deemed normal and sane. But this is no attack on who she is, for there's a reason behind her behaviors. If you know a little bit of Japanese, then you can easily spot something cool from her name itself. Her name, Hitori Gotoh, denotes someone who is alone and lonely. Her nickname further exemplifies this, as Bocchi stands for loner in Japanese slang. So from her name, we can determine that this is a character who has been lonely for a large portion of her life. Someone who has never made friends whatsoever, who is just on their own, existing but never noticed. Oh, she should just approach people! Easy to say, but Bocchi is a girl that struggles and is afraid of social interaction. She has a tendency of saying when trying to speak, as her mind freaks out in knowing what to say whenever someone approaches her. Her fear and interaction can lead her to great lengths to avoid people. In episode 3, for example, we see Bocchi eating alone in a secluded spot under a staircase after a mortifying moment in class. But that's not all. She also seeks refuge in trash cans, cardboard boxes, and anything else that offers cover. Heck, even her first performance with Kesuko Band was from inside a cardboard box. Bocchi in a way is an embodiment of someone very timid, introverted, and shy who avoids social interactions like the plague. However, this is where she stands out. I like this post from the official Bocchi The Rock subreddit analyzing Bocchi. By the way, the person who made this post is a member of Dorito Hotspot, the most Dorito server ever. In his words, Bocchi is an adorable blob of seeming self-contradiction, yet captured the hearts and imaginations of many viewers. In other words, despite being afraid of interacting with people, she desperately needs it so much that she will do anything in her power to get the very thing that she fears the most. It's like exes who still want each other even after how toxic their relationship has become. Wait, wrong bit. Again, weird. Add in the fact that she practices 6 hours a day on the guitar just for all this attention she knows is too much for her is insane. But we're beginning to piece together her appeal, because she's not the only one like this. From our Discord server, a brilliant member points it this way. I think all the inner monologues and flashbacks really help with Bocchi's relatability. I bet we'd all daydreamed of being famous and subsequently blurted out our own fantasies, or made failed attempts at being noticed without actually talking to anyone. All those small secondhand embarrassing inducing moments in the manga and anime weren't just fuel for comedy. They were experiences we'd had at some point in our lives. Whether we like it or not, many of us have felt and are feeling what she has gone through. Despite some of us dreading interaction, we crave that attention and sense of belonging. And you can't deny this, since humanity and society over the centuries has been built by the trait that we desire to be known and heard. Yes, she is lonely, there's no denying that, but she just doesn't accept it as it is. These ambitious, albeit cringy attempts to be heard is admirable to say the least. We cheer for her with every step she takes, bringing on a sense of inspiration to us all. She is a simple girl in hindsight. There's no malice or selfishness to her desire. She simply wants connection. And yes, dreaming to perform in Zepp Haneda is desiring connection. She'll do whatever it takes to obtain it. But there's something deeper to her personality that could further explain her appeal. I'm talking about the inner workings of Bocchi, her psychology. In researching for this video, I found an X/Twitter thread that was like a gold mine for understanding the psychology of Hitori Gotoh. From the OG anime psychologist, we have an entire dump load on Bocchi's functions as an individual. By the way, I'll summarize his thread since I don't want to be narrating his homework. I highly recommend reading the entire thread. It's a fascinating read. But before we begin, we must establish that Hitori is introverted by all means. She prefers to introspect and be on her own a majority of times. In episode 1, she goes in a hurry to leave Nijika and Ryo after their performance, as she states having her social battery drained after all the interaction, which perfectly encapsulates how introverts and extroverts function. Introverted people get drained from social interaction and re-energized in their alone time, while Akita, for example, they function oppositely by gaining energy from socializing. However, unlike Ryo, who is a fellow introvert, Bocchi is quite an unstable introvert who we already mentioned desperately craves social interaction and faces immense anxiety when trying to communicate. Ryo, on the other hand, is fine at communicating and socializing, but prefers to be on her own. The anime already explained this difference in a skit during episode 2 comparing the two. Now that we established an area most people mistake with Bocchi, we can now finally unravel the main thing that makes Hitori Gotoh Bocchi. That is her social anxiety. According to psychologists, Bocchi shows symptoms most associated with social anxiety: blushing, heart palpitations, and nervousness. She experiences intense fear in social situations, avoiding or having a hard time trying to form connections with others. Her social anxiety is the real deal. Unlike the misconception that being slightly nervous to talk to someone is already considered social anxiety, which is wrong by all means. Bocchi has a serious condition that has been affecting for most of her life. If you want to further understand social anxiety through the lens of Bocchi, then I highly recommend a video that I found while researching for this video from Hazy. After watching this video, I can't help but feel sad about how serious Bocchi's situation is. I really wanna hug her now! Luckily enough, she possesses a growth mindset by which one's abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. She might have started being shy and socially anxious, but she has this drive and determination to improve and hopefully gain more confidence as an individual. And yes, she also possesses severe cases of low confidence and self-esteem, always in fear of what others might perceive of her, and we can see this all throughout the anime of her fantasies and worst-case scenarios going inside her head. I find it interesting how psychologists suggest that Bocchi's inner workings can be dialed down to someone having ASD or autism spectral disorder. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by challenges in social interaction, communication, and restricted or repetitive behaviors, interests, or activities. Her social challenges throughout the anime are a major part of the story. She experiences difficulties making friends and maintaining relationships, which can be interpreted as signs of ASD. Her extreme shyness and social anxiety is very reminiscent of how ASD impairs an individual's social capabilities. Before the events of the story, Bocchi struggled understanding social cues and maintaining eye contact, very evident on how she handled interacting with Nijika for the first time. She also regularly stumbles over her words and sometimes is even unable to speak at all. As stated earlier, someone with ASD might also display repetitive behaviors. While not noticeable at first, Bocchi tends to grip her skirt when she feels nervous or overwhelmed by a situation she is in. Another key factor to support this hypothesis is that Bocchi is narrowly fixated on one particular task or interest. It takes a whole lot of dedication and focus to practice the guitar 6 hours a day. I myself cannot fathom on just narrowing my whole entire life into one hobby, and I can assume that many other individuals think the same way. When you come to think of it, whether or not she has ASD, this very fixation on playing the guitar has cemented her fate and destiny and has allowed her to become an extremely talented guitar player. This fixation of her to make it in the music or entertainment world, coupled with her immense drive and passion to grow and improve as an individual, has allowed her to break herself out of her shell and comfort zone and meet individuals who play a crucial role in her life. Psychologists and experts have expressed that strong social support can help individuals facing such conditions and promote mental health. The friends she has made in their own unique ways and their shared experiences have helped Bocchi gain self-esteem and develop a social network. And for the following section, let us take a deep dive on the few individuals who have helped Bocchi grow as an individual. Let's rewind and go back to the scene in episode 1. Bocchi, after bringing her guitar to school and finding out that still no one cares about her in class, is defeated and devastated, sitting alone on a random swing, thinking about quitting it all, and almost sets out her life as a complete shut-in, fully focusing on her online following. But just before she gives up, we hear the surprise shock of Nijika, who quickly rushes to Bocchi. There is also genius camera framing with this scene, which could be a separate video on its own. But to get the gist of it, we are subtly shown that Bocchi's angel and savior has finally discovered her. I want to focus on Bocchi's first proper interaction with someone other than her family. We can see that she avoids eye contact and is even purely shocked to reply to Nijika initially. And after Nijika begs for Bocchi to play for her band, she is incapable of even saying no. Throughout the rest of episode 1, we see how Nijika gets to know Bocchi more as a person and how Bocchi is handling socializing for the first time. Nijika is quick to discover that Bocchi is quite weird and unhinged. But here's the beauty of Nijika that I would love to dissect in her character analysis video on her birthday. Despite all the telltale signs of Bocchi being a hopeless, socially anxious girl, she won't allow Bocchi to be this way forever. Nijika in a way is not only an angel to Bocchi, being all supportive and caring, she also acts as a motherly figure that pushes Bocchi to break out of her shell. Her dedication from episode 1 is admirable to say the least. If Nijika were to just accept Bocchi for who she is, or at worst let her go after their first performance, then Bocchi would likely end up back in her own world, all alone with only the internet. Up to the next moment in episode 5, which this utterly beautiful animation cemented Nijika as my one true love. In this stage of Bocchi's growth, she begins to care and take this band that she's in very seriously, stressing to Nijika that despite being dragged against her will at episode 1, she very much wants the band to succeed for Nijika. Despite not yet fully understanding Nijika's dream, there's already a part of Bocchi that cherishes Keisuko band dearly, wanting to give her all. In their audition, she internally exclaims that she doesn't want Keisuko band to dissolve just yet. She wants her dream and the rest of the band's dreams to become reality. This is the start of Bocchi carrying and inspiring her bandmates. The fruits of Nijika's efforts have begun to pay off, especially during episode 8. And the effort paid off. After Bocchi carried the band's first proper concert, Nijika finally revealed to Bocchi her true dream in life. It took a while, but at this stage, Bocchi has officially become a support pillar to Nijika that she now feels comfortable sharing the dream with. It is worth noting that she hasn't yet revealed this dream to the rest of the band to not be a burden to them since she is the leader of the group. Bocchi hasn't properly realized this, but she truly has become a hero in her own way. To care so deeply for the band and to allow her raw emotion and love flow through her solo shows how truly capable Hitori is when she is passionate for something. Of course, she is still this awkward and socially anxious individual, but she has matured in a way that she herself cannot fathom, especially when compared to her past. There are many more scenes where Nijika inspires Bocchi and the other way around. To sum it up, Bocchi would not be where she is at this point if it wasn't for the efforts Nijika placed to make her improve. And for Nijika, she will not find another guitarist who she can confidently believe that her lifelong dream might become reality other than Bocchi. This is why the dynamic between these two is my all-time fave, and why I'm unofficially Team Bonichi. The Bokita fans are gonna get me. RIP. Off to the next character, Ryo. A notable scene for Bocchi's growth is during episode 4 when she consults Ryo about the lyrics she just wrote for the song. As stated in our previous section, these two are the loners of the band, the quiet types. While Ryo is confidently quiet, Bocchi on the other hand freaks out over any awkward silence and does not know how to interact. In their first time together, we can see how Bocchi tries to think of ways to start a conversation, even falling back to her worst case scenario thoughts on their interaction. The awkwardness, executed in a comedic way, lasts for a few minutes before Ryo breaks the ice that is colder than Antarctica. The focus of this scene in particular is how Ryo gave Bocchi some proper advice on not just the lyrics for the song, but for Bocchi as a whole. She questions Bocchi on whether she is truly satisfied with what she wrote. Bocchi states that if she were to write something more authentic, it would be emo songs with angsty lyrics. Ryo then tells of her past band and how conforming to popular trends is what led her to leave and almost giving up playing in a band before Nijika swoops in to recruit her. Abandoning your uniqueness is equivalent to dying. Ryo advises Bocchi that her individuality should never be compromised just for the sake of popularity. Being a loner herself with little to no friends, she doesn't care if she stands out or no one approaches her. She is fine on her own and confident of herself. This advice to Bocchi helps her give her some much needed confidence in embracing who she is, since we've established that she lacks any sort of self-esteem. Later, after the authentic lyrics were made, Ryo gives her second most quoted line. It may not connect with many, but those it does, it will hit deeply. She encourages Bocchi that it is okay to be herself and not care that much about what the world may perceive of her. Other than the lesson she gives to Bocchi, these two are quite a sight to watch. They are like the unlikely buddies that are awkward at first but very close after their first proper time together. They act as sort of a comedic duo, and Ryo has someone to truly rely on for financial reasons. We have to establish the fact that the events of episode 3 will not be possible without the events of episode 1 and episode 2. Though Bocchi is yet to improve considerably, after episode 2, she was willing enough to make the first move and try to recruit Kita into joining Kesukuban. Her attempt of course has a lot to be desired, but the effort is what counts, as Bocchi needed this moment to drastically improve her social skills. And luckily enough, Kita follows her and they start conversing for the first time. Later on in the story, their conversation becomes more natural and at ease, with Bocchi momentarily thinking that they were best buddies. But here is the thing that makes Bocchi a beloved character. She notices subtle things like how she noticed Kita's callous fingers, which indicated to Bocchi that Kesukuban meant something to Kita. On the subject of Kita, we have to understand that despite being on the opposite spectrum compared to Bocchi, both share a lot of similarities. They are both unstable and uncertain with who they are, and go to great lengths to be admired and cared for. Their dynamic is a strong argument for the saying opposites attract. But back to episode 3. Kita was about to leave before Bocchi takes another bold move and fails to recruit Kita. She was even willing enough to share a very embarrassing moment with her as she understood Kita on a deeper level and knows that deep down Kita wants to stay but is just afraid since she bought a bass by accident and doesn't know how to play the guitar. We also have the moment afterwards where Bocchi goes all blubby when receiving praise, indicating her very low self-esteem. But this moment, along with episode 1, shows that bit by bit Bocchi is becoming better at expressing her thoughts and speaking her mind. Bocchi, we are so proud of you! In a way, you can compare Bocchi and Kita's dynamic as a reverse to Nijika and Bocchi's dynamic. Bocchi inadvertently became Kita's pillar of support and person of inspiration, the same way Nijika is to Bocchi, not only in teaching her the guitar, but for inspiring Kita to become better for Bocchi's sake and giving her something worthwhile. As one may put it, Kita initially joined Kesukuban for her crush for Ryo, but stayed because of Bocchi. Their dynamic peaked, as of season 1, when Kita saved Bocchi during the string mishap in episode 12. Kita knows that Bocchi is much more capable than she thinks of herself and went to great lengths by improvising a solo to give Bocchi ample time to recollect and perform her iconic bottleneck solo. Though very different from one another, they complement each other quite perfectly, hence their popularity together as a ship in the community. Imagine me making a controversial ship's tier list video in the future. Whoops! Spoilers! Another notable character in Bocchi's growth throughout the series is Kikuri Hiroi. First introduced in episode 6 in the most epic way, she eventually becomes the unlikely older sister to Bocchi. In episode 6 itself, she gives advice that helps Bocchi in performing in front of others. That the people she's playing in front of are not her enemies. This is to help Bocchi in performing live on the streets to sell the tickets for the upcoming concert. This advice helps Bocchi in her first performance and helps her to look at the audience and not be severely afraid. It's an important lesson to learn, since performing live in front of many listeners is frightening. Even the most experienced performers may experience stage fright. So for Bocchi to handle her first live performance quite well is commendable. Even Kikuri realized the raw potential behind Bocchi's playing, and she believed she can reach places even farther than she ever could. In episode 10, she also told Bocchi that she was exactly how Bocchi is but used alcohol as a means to calm herself and gain confidence under the influence. And there are many other similarities between the two that makes them fitting as unlikely siblings. Let's just hope Bocchi doesn't end up like Kikuri. Bocchi, please drink responsibly. There's also Seika Ichichi, the older sister of Nijika. Though she has the right intentions to help Bocchi as an individual, it is her tsundere nature that makes it difficult to properly help the poor old pink creature. Bocchi in most interactions feels intimidated but deep down knows Seika is a good manager and a person. Seika asking for an audition in episode 5 played a significant role in not just Bocchi's confidence but the entire band's confidence as a whole. With all that we've gone through, it is evident that one of the main appealing factors of Bocchi is that she has all the ingredients of a great protagonist. She is as relatable as she gets, but it is through this relatability that many become invested in her story and growth. Because a problem with some anime of similar premises is how they end with protagonists that do not change at all from the first episode to the last. While researching for this video, for example, I had to watch Watamote. Though entertaining, it was also really painful to watch with moments that are still relatable, but the execution left me wanting to leave my room rather than laugh. She also fails at growing at all throughout the entire series. This is not an attack on Watamote, but for me it did not hit the same mark as Bocchi did. In a way, the over-exaggeration and brilliant comedy is what makes the very relatable elements enjoyable to watch. Enjoyable enough that you laugh, cheer, and cry along with Bocchi's journey throughout the show. And the fact that she grows is a wonderful aspect to her appeal. In fact, we can use the very medium of her self-expression, the songs she writes, to see how she grows as an individual. Starting with the opening session complex, we get to understand that Bocchi has spent a majority of her life in the shadows and behind the scenes. Her social anxiety is plaguing her and preventing her to interact with others. She has a burning desire to be known and be heard, but no one seems to notice her. Similarly, with Guitar Loneliness at Blue Planet, we get to know Bocchi more on a personal level. How she has disconnected from the outside world and every day feels like a repeat of yesterday. She keeps on trying to be heard, but it is never enough and her attempts are always futile. So she goes to the guitar as a way to express herself and for it to become her own world. She ends this song saying that through her playing alone, she can finally make the world notice for even a brief second as she has this burning desire to be remembered. But here's a big surprise. With Into the Light being one of 2 newer singles, the message is drastically different from the other previous songs. This song has a more optimistic and hopeful tone that we have ever seen from a Keisuko band song. Bocchi seems to be more confident as of writing the lyrics here, yet she tackles the elements of being alone and being socially anxious, but it is now taken more lightly. The chorus itself is full of confidence and hope. Gone are the emo elements. In comes a wholesome message of playing for the people, of dreams being made, and Keisuko band being stronger than ever as a band. And good news, this is my next song analysis video coming in 2 weeks, so please like and subscribe if you want to see that. This song sits very far ahead into Bocchi's growth and character development. For me, it's a massive spoiler on what could happen in both the manga and anime. A stronger argument for when is season 2? Please, season 2! But please treat the stop nicely, unlike Mappa. In wrapping up this video, I want to go over some fantastic comments and points that people from Dorito Hotspot have made and from the Bocchi The Rock subreddit. From these very comments, we can tell that not only Bocchi related to the lives of many individuals, but how she also inspired and gave hope to plenty. Hitori Gotoh is a very relatable protagonist due to the fact that she's just like me for real. Provides one of the most realistic, though of course exaggerated for humor and entertainment purposes, depictions of social anxiety within fiction. The Bocchi time, as quoted from literally the best girl in existence, Nijika, scenes quite accurately demonstrate the sometimes ridiculous thought processes and generated scenarios that occur within a socially anxious person's, such as myself, mind that would lead to them being scared of entering an otherwise regular social situation. Yes, for the ordinary person, what may seem like a normal interaction is like a momentous achievement for people like Bocchi. I distinctly recall that one-step sequence in episode 2 where what felt like a big step for Bocchi felt like a tiny step in Nijika's eyes. Moving over to Reddit, we have Red Hair's character analysis of Bocchi, which is also one of the main inspirations for this video. From his analysis, I greatly enjoyed this line. If someone as pathetic as episode 1 Bocchi can change for the better and even show off her cool sides at times, then so can you. This speaks to the very nature of Bocchi as a protagonist, on how she inspires individuals through her own unique way. Her growth is very down-to-earth and realistic, inspiring us all who may be shut-ins, who may have never made friends, who are shy and awkward, or even experience social anxiety can change for the better. Bocchi inspires not in some cheesy or some other annoying motivational speaker way. She inspires by being herself and taking that one step at a time to become better day by day. I would love to add more, but we're running out of time, so here's the last comment from one of the most popular members of Dorito Hotspot and is a fellow YouTuber, Sweat. All those moments where you feel like the world is against you, like you have to do everything by yourself, constantly considering others' judgments, and eventually having to come to terms with the reality that you will be judged by others and be made fun of when you make a mistake, that's something Bocchi's felt too. And that's something Bocchi constantly feels and is afraid of all throughout the anime. Her crippling social anxiety is what pushes her to become a shut-in guitarist YouTuber, where she finds success and admiration because in her eyes, she doesn't have to present anything to anyone there aside from her guitar skills. And in her eyes, that's what she's loved for. So she keeps persevering, improving, and getting better, with the hope that one day she gets so good at the guitar that validation will come naturally no matter how she presents herself as long as she keeps shredding. You and I are here on this platform and on the internet for comfort. It is for individuals such as Bocchi to interact and make ourselves known. Guitar Loneliness and Blue Planet tackles how Bocchi uses the internet to finally make herself heard. This very channel, every video, and all the videos on on the internet, the memes, the comments, the tweets, the Discord servers, the various social media platforms, all of these exist to help satisfy humanity's crave for validation and attention. It is not wrong by any means to stay online, but Bocchi's story can also be the catalyst for some of us to not touch grass, but to take small little steps in improving and growing as individuals. It can obviously be about improving our social interactions and becoming more confident, but it can also be about learning a musical instrument, which the anime made a big role in the musical lives of many, acquiring a new skill, or just anything. The beauty of this anime, unlike other slice of life animes and shonens, is that it is a coming of age story, sugar-coated and sprinkled with meme-worthy animation and voice lines. For me, one moment from the anime that I still cannot move on from is the final performance in episode 12. Why still today I couldn't move on for Bocchi to have her live performance quote-unquote ruined. The story clearly understood her character. It didn't want to end with Bocchi magically becoming a powerhouse at that arc. It had to be messed up to highlight and showcase that she still got a long way to go. We all have a long way to go. There's this groundedness that keeps her human and real, and not unrealistic that makes her stronger than she ever is. She perfectly encapsulates our nature as individuals, finding it hard and impossible to drastically change and break bad habits. Heck, I don't even have friends in college. Heck, I still have low self-esteem. I know my struggles as an individual. I fantasize and dream to one day be someone else. But life is never that easy, and Bocchi's growth is never that easy. And that is why I've come to respect this performance so much more. It blew my expectations on how these types of shows normally end by forgetting the realism and authenticity of human life. There is so much more to unravel and unpack on the character of Hitori Gotoh. I have so much more to say. This analysis may not be as detailed or in-depth as some expect, but I hope it is enough to give praise and attention to the brilliant writing of this character. From how Aki Hamaji made her from the ground up, to the brilliant voice acting of Ariyama Yoshino, and the amazing adaptation the team from Cloverworks have done. It is an understatement to say that Bocchi is a great character. To answer on how to make the most relatable character, the example of Bocchi speaks it all. She is written through the various experiences that have shaped our lives. Her growth and development is grounded and realistic. But what makes her memorable is her rendition is perfectly done in the comedic and exaggerated way that we the viewers are invested in her story. A story of a lone guitarist turned hero for the masses. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.